this will take. This is an ongoing process. As you know, we can't always think that we'll achieve perfection, so we're constantly going to try to improve. The first step is in trying to improve and bring the current system up to speed, which means to say that our intention and goal is to increase the coverage for the existing data that we collect and make sure that it's even more accurate and the coverage is higher. So for that, we've already started talks. Our strategy is to target, you could call it a pilot, but just target certain commodities that are better organized as a sector within Canada. So we're starting with the potatoes. We've started talks with the Canadian Produce Marketing Association and the Hort Council. We formed a working group. And the strategy is to target, say, the apple industry or some other organized industries that are more advanced with respect to their information needs and their information collection. So we're going to work with them first and make sure we cover all the potential data points that need to be covered, and then move on to the smaller sectors, because we feel that we can lead by example. The larger, more organized sectors can lead by example. So once we have the potato and the apples on board and maybe the stone fruits, then we can move on to the smaller produce associations and the producers themselves to get more data. So I don't see this happening in the next year, but I do see us taking big steps in each of those larger sectors for sure.
Gracias, Fernando, por tu pregunta. Efectivamente,
Thank you for your question. Yes, the way that we developed our best practices from the MISs was comprised of the contributions from 19 countries who were, I don't want to say assessed, but they were supported by MAIO during this during this first stage. And I was speaking about this at lunch with some colleagues that I consider that this isn't an exhaustive list, as you stated. And second, I think that this is a very good opportunity for all of us as MIOA to enrich this list of best practices, especially given the changes that have been occurring regarding the role of analysis and dissemination of information, the role it plays. With this, I would like to invite all of the participants here to share their best practices and ideas and elaborate a document, which obviously, as part of MIOA, we could publish to help other individuals. Thank you. Rolando Gonzalez. Thank you. Just to expand on what Dr. Lam stated, we were speaking about the fact that that information systems seek to be transparent and disseminate through any sort of medium, internet, etc. But at the same time, people on the other side, the users and the agents, they also advance technologically speaking. I was telling the doctor about something that happened to me yesterday. At the border of Costa Rica and Panama, there's a hospital belonging to Costa Rica. I was called from that hospital, and I was told that the head of the hospital, she compared the pricing list that's presented on the internet, that you could find on the internet. It was different from the supply that the vegetable supplier for that hospital gave her. So she was being charged higher prices than the official list on the internet. This means that there are individuals who are advancing technologically wise, as we are, in transparency. So people are trying to see how they can beat the system and perform negative things through technology. So a suggestion could be for information systems to have more contact with information technology and communication technology systems with TICs, in the sense that the price list that I'm issuing, for example, as a system, will be the same list that reaches the final user, the end user, not that a website will have one list and that will be different from the price list given to the client or the customer. So perhaps data has to be further verified, especially what's online. Regarding Lam's thesis, we're just trying to contribute following his suggestion. Thank you, Rolando. Just to quickly repeat the idea, that's what this workshop is about, for us to share our best experiences or experiences in general. And your experience is perhaps similar to other countries. And once again, I ask all of you to be able to build to construct better standards and disseminate them among ourselves. Okay, 3 more questions before we continue. Our colleague from Bolivia. Thank you. That is a question for Victor. At the MIS, do you consider to integrate the information regarding agricultural production, supply of products in the market? Is that information you're going to cover? And market prices, so that that information is trustworthy? Do you cover that? It's interesting to note that given our field research our field research should consider more variables, and the fact that we have reporters out in the field finding out prices could also lead to their asking as to why prices are high or low. There has to be an economic factor behind that, and that's usually part of research. But there isn't research that forces us to see if the production of a specific product was below or higher, if one was an oversupply or lack of supply. Was offered at a different price from the market price. So we do not, this is the law of economics, offer and supply and demand. So if you're out in the field finding prices, you almost have to tie these figures with production prices. And not only with producers, you also have to think about other aspects regarding gathering information, such as commercial warehouses, storage sites, prices in the agro industry sector. That's always important to take into account in order to know what phase isn't working, or what phase is providing incorrect information. But this is information, either correct or incorrect. It's information, and we have a list. That's why we have these lists available. So we do cover these aspects. My response would be that, in this sense, yes, we should tie the price list with other variables that you mentioned in the agricultural sector. Victor, do you have a question? Thank you. This is a question for Gayatri. And if Terry were here, I would ask him.
Sobre algo que hace mucho tiempo.
This is a question for Gayatri. If Terry were here, I would ask him. A short time ago, I've seen in Canada and the United States that the information is also useful for all of these state programs, such as agricultural insurance, purchased by the government with regards to grain storage, and regarding agricultural subsidies, measures to directly support farmers and producers. So given the information that you generate, how does that help contribute to establishing government plans, and how the government intervenes in production? How do they manage the information?
Bueno, puedo decir que el gobierno interviene
very, very helpful because, for example, we have something called the Advanced Payments Program, where producers can ask for a loan of up to 50% of what they expect to make out of a product. It could be cattle, it could be grains, it could be anything. And the organizations who administer that program send a request to us saying that this is the amount we expect to get at the end of the season for this product, and we want 50% of this. That request is then sent to our group to assess whether the current market information and the intelligence that we have with respect to the market, for example, it could be that we know that the market of potatoes, the price of potatoes might drop because there is an excess production, for example, which might not be common knowledge. We will apply that and the market information on current prices and predict what it's going to be, and then send back our recommendation. And it's quite possible that we don't support the price that they ask for because we know that they're not going to get it at the end of the season. So current market information is very, very accurate, very necessary for that. And for the other program that we have, agri-recovery, for disaster programs, we have 45 days that's given to us to actually put together a program and start giving out funding. And within the 45 days, we have to assess what the damage is, whether it's flood or disease in that particular area. And we need accurate market information with respect to how many producers are there, what varieties are they growing, how much are they growing, how much is it going for, what quality, because in potatoes there are different generations, different varieties of potatoes, and each one has a separate value. So we need to have the up-to-date information on hand so that we can respond right away. If we don't have it, which has happened in the past where we did not have that information on hand, we had to go back to the producer associations and try to get the prices exactly the way we wanted them to design a program. So it's very vital for that. With respect to insurance, normally the insurance rates are fixed in an actuarially sound manner, and they have the formulas for that. But they do approach us for market intelligence when they need to extend, for example, a seeding season. If they're not able to seed something because of a weather issue, or if they think that they need to extend their harvest season by a week, we will get a request to say, is that reasonable? Is that what the conditions are in that area? And can we extend it and the coverage so they can claim damage if necessary at the end of the season? So for each of those programs, we provide them with accurate information so that they can design the programs that are responsive to that particular need. I hope that answers your question.
Y por último tenemos.
Lastly, we have the participation of ITEM. I wanted to ask Victor a question that's a technical question, it's statistical. In Brazil, we have many problems regarding we have a background that's interrupted, with our harvest is interrupted many times. So what happens if there isn't a harvest or the harvest isn't available? And the second question is, this is part of Canada's question. If these prices are used, are these prices used as a parameter to safeguard the yield of the producer, to guarantee the yield? Well, regarding the lack of data in the past, in a historical background scenario, my criteria, it's better not to consider these figures unless that there are too many information gaps and you have the objective of calculating a seasonal index, a seasonal price index. Perhaps exploring alternative sources is required as a variable to be able to fill these types of gaps if it's necessary. However, forcing, filling gaps by force or by obligation, I can't really say 100% that it's not recommendable. It depends what your objective is, filling these gaps. Regarding the second question, I wasn't sure what your question was. If you could repeat it. Could you repeat it? Why do we use experiences figures to make production courses with the idea that, for example, is a producer having, for example, if the figures that we collect, do they give the government certainty of the actual production of the producers, and do they help the producers obtain government bonds? In this regards, the products that are strategically sensitive and sometimes ministers are at fault because there are problems. However, regarding these products, there's a minimum price requirement through which it becomes an activator of state intervention to guarantee the farmer a price that will cover the production cost plus a reasonable yield or profitability. And only with these cases, once the minimum price is established and the market prices drop, only with this situation will the government intervene to directly purchase the product from the producer. Just to share my experiences, since we're sharing, I'm going to share with Rolando. Just to give an example, in Uruguay, we've established 3 or 4 years ago an agreement with the Ministry of Economics and Finance through which the tenders that the state executes, which has a centralized purchasing unit, will use reference values for certain products as which are those that we look at. Those are the ones we use, and this makes tenders and supply of hospitals, of the army, of various institutions to use these values. And the tenders or supply is executed through by using these figures that we use, taking into account the quality of the product and the size or quality. But we can look into this later on. I think it's a good experience to share. With this, we will close the Q&A session and continue with the agenda and conclude the first module, which are the key factors for design and management of market information systems. Now we will continue with Module 2, which is training, data collection, and quality control. And for this, we ask Dr. Luis Fernando Palmer to please take the floor.
En su presentación del perfil de reportero y sus...
He will be given a presentation on the reporter profile and their main role. Bueno, parece que no hay nada que presentar, así es que nos acabamos de ahorrar 1:30.
Segunda, la primera. Sí. No, está bien. No, a ver si leo allá, porque la vejez. Cámbielo mejor, porque la vejez es... Ay, y el control. Ah, ya, ya. Well, while we wait, I must explain why do I have to speak in English, because maybe some of you are wondering. But I work for the U.S. Department of Agriculture, and officially we have to speak in any engagement that I have of this manner in English, so that's why. But I do have the irkings to speak in Spanish, so if I put one or two words in there, please forgive me. Anyway, a lot of what I'm going to mention today in the next two presentations were already mentioned here earlier. It might sound repetitious, might be some ideas that you might not have heard yet, and I have been in too many places already where most of you have heard what I have said, so please forgive me if you sound repetitious, but the important thing of the importance of this is that no matter how many times I repeat them, they hold true. So keep that in mind, that these things are what we at USDA and I'm believing as to data collection and a few of them as what a market reporter should be. All right. With that, this is module 2, and it's, oh, I think we have the wrong presentation, but let me see. I think. Yeah, because the training part was not in the presentation that I have, but let's go with it. So it is the same in a lot of places. I had changed it quite a bit, but no, that's the only one you have, so something went wrong. I have it here.
Bueno, mientras arreglamos los problemas técnicos que tenemos, Rafaela nos...
While we fix our technical problems, Rafaela has asked us to give her a few minutes to say a few words.
¿Ya? Bueno.
Well, I was thinking about what Ayrton asked about whether he could keep prices when they're out of commodities, and if they could keep the same price. When you prepare seasonal indexes for vegetables and fruits, you have to take out the price. There's no microphone on. No, okay. For example, if you have prices for a certain month, you have prices up to the month of April, then May, June, and July are out of price. And when you work on the seasonal behavior and see what is the time when there are more of this product, you need this information in order to bring products from overseas. Because that is a problem that we now have in Paraguay. We want to take bananas to Argentina, and Argentina has bananas too, so there are problems with the producers. And right now, we're trying to prepare seasonal indices for some products that are in the Argentinian market. And that seasonal behavior reflects in each country what is the season where there are more or less of this product. That is why it is important to take out the price, not leave in a price, because if you leave the price, that means that they have this commodity.
I will go really quick so you guys don't have to hear my voice so low, so much. Anyway, this is the first presentation from Module 2, and I was asked to, and the name of the module is Data Collection and Quality Control. So as you see in the other presentation, the title is a little bit wrong, so I don't know what happened. So, next slide. Oops. I'm too quick. And the name of the presentation is Reporter's Profile and its Main Functions. To make this presentation, I just did not take my own opinion. It's a lot of information from different people that I've worked through the years. And some of this stuff I did 10 years before and so on. And some talks with my boss and some other guys that do market information. And we always reach some of these considerations that I'm going to say here as those that we really want a reporter to have. I call these general considerations, and the first one is, if we're talking about Myers-Briggs, and I don't know how many of you know about Myers-Briggs, the type of personality that this reporter or person should have, it should be an extroverted person. And if he's not an extrovert, he should be able, or he should want to adapt or emulate. It is very important, this part. And how many of you have been market reporters? I know Mauricio has been, and not too many people have been market reporters. Another one. Oh, you are? Josie, Barnaby too? So that's 3, 4. That's good. That's a good number. So you guys gonna be, and you're gonna prove me wrong probably. The second thing is, regardless of your background, age, ethnicity, the reporter must be humble. He should have a great deal of humility. Terry did mention this earlier today. He cannot go to the market saying, hey, I have this big chest, you give me the information. You cannot do that. I'm always making jokes. And the third point here is that he should be willing to interact with all kinds of people, different origins, religions, backgrounds, economical status, and so if you are not willing to do this, then more likely you're going to fail as a market reporter. This is very obvious. You should be interested in this subject. Fascinated with agriculture, because a lot of people might be interested in the marketing, but they are not fascinated in agriculture. I remember somebody that confused one time a cantaloupe with a watermelon. So, and he was a reporter. He no longer works for us, thank God. Agricultural background is not essential, but if this person has an agricultural background, it will be very, very beneficial, very helpful. And we talk about trustworthiness. This person must be trustworthy or have a great level of trust, because when he goes to interact with the informers, he needs to show that trustworthiness so that the informers will kind of feel that they could help him and not think that this is another government employee that is not to be trusted. So if he portrays some trustworthiness, it will be easy for him to obtain his information and do the interview and obtain the data that is needed. We cannot be lazy or crooked or anything like that. This will doom a market reporter. I've seen market reporters that in some countries that they have a side business and all of that. You cannot do that. So you have to be, and I will mention it later, very honest person. Willing to follow instructions and procedures. Being a market reporter is following that. Every day you have to do the same type of investigation. And so if you try to cut corners or do things a little bit different than it is in your handbook, things are not going to work in the long run. There are some people that are always only willing to share with their bosses, superiors, the successes. But with market reporting, you need to share the rejections that you have, the problems that you have in the market, so that these problems can be solved. If you're a person that just want to share with your boss the good things, then there is no way you can make it in this way. Victor Hugo will know this a lot. This has to be a two-way between your superiors and yourself, I guess. Honest, I didn't mention that. And one of the things as market reporters that we do have is a lot of rejection. Sometimes you ask a guy 10 times, come back later. Oh, I'm busy now. If you give in to that, there is no way you're going to do the job that you need to do. So you need to be willing to take rejection easily and let it slide off you. Hey, this is going quick. More general considerations. It should be helpful, inquisitive, polite, extrovert. I mentioned that before. He must be willing to work at really odd hours. Our job is not done from 9 to 4:30 or something like that. Sometimes starts at midnight, and sometimes at midnight we're still there from something that we have to do. So this person must be willing to work at very odd hours, not so glamorous places because the markets are not that nice neither, but he must be willing to work there too, and great communication skills. Be able to chat with these guys, know what the informers, what makes them tick, what makes them give you the information, what makes them. Frank mentioned it early, and he's not here now, but I do think that this, no, there he is. You moved. It's an art. It's not a science. You cannot approach two informers the same way. You really, really have to study them. The most valuable thing that I feel that a market information system has is its personnel, and it was mentioned earlier before that that's what you need to keep. So, all right, I'm going okay. So these are things I think that a reporter should have in order for him to succeed doing his job. And these are just the general requirements. It's going to be a little bit repetitious of the other one, but I gave you the general considerations, and these are the things I think the person you should be looking at when you're trying to interview or hire one of these persons. Should be a professional, of course. We need that. Maybe an agricultural engineer, an economist, minimum with a bachelor's degree, preferably in agriculture, as I said before. It doesn't have to be. It should have a basic knowledge of computer science, programs such as Word, Excel, PowerPoint, know how to work a database, although your system database you will teach them later, but at least know the inklings of how a database works. Oh, they should know how to use the manual of the organization, the database I mentioned, procedures of the institution, and all the vocabulary that they use should be in accordance with the industry. You cannot do things different than that. And know all the vocabulary that you have in your handbook in order for them to do the reports as it is stated in your handbook. That's easy. The days of taking buses to go and report markets and all of that stuff create a big hindrance in the report and so. So this person should at least know how to drive a motorcycle or a car. It is very important. You might not think of that once you're trying to hire somebody, or you might not want to. But you really have to think about it because the markets generally are not in an accessible place. The hours that they work, you don't have buses going there or anything like that. So you really need to have somebody who knows at least how to drive. I mentioned this before, good interpersonal relationship, good manners, respectful to their superiors and other personnel in the office. And that's basically the things that I would look at, generally, not so particular of a market reporter. By the way, I am that picture. Huh? Nobody got it. Functions of a market reporter. He has to attend to all courses and actively participate in those courses that are given by the system. He should study in detail, carefully, his handbook. That's where all the instructions and all what he's going to do, he should understand it very well. He should comply with those instructions in both handbook and manuals, functional dictionary. A lot of guys that I have noticed in some of the countries I have gone think that they have this great memory, and they do not write down the investigation that they do. I think it's very imperative, very important for this reporter to write down what he does. You know, the data, you might destroy it once you put it into the database, but write it down. The mind plays you tricks, and the older you get, the more tricks it plays. So don't use your memory as the big ally for you to when you're doing a market investigation. And one of the good practices that Frank mentioned earlier was this about the list of informants. And so a market reporter, one of his functions should be to have this list readily updated, not just what if he is not there tomorrow, somebody has to come and take over his place. And so this is a function that is very important for him. Okay, the first one, oh, that one, I translated it easy. Probably should say it in Spanish. But this is that he should really maintain inform his superiors, and if any problem arises, he should be able to tell them and have it solved really quickly. Also, we were visiting in Nigeria once, and these guys had reports done, and this is a Terry story. And you know, this guy had a report like for today, and have all these prices and so and so. And the Terry asked him, "So did you go to the market today?" "No, I haven't gone there for a month, but if I had gone there today, it would have been like this." So this is being a market reporter means that you have to do your investigation that day, at that time, at that moment, at the place you're supposed to do it, and not any other place. That's why I thought when Trinidad and Tobago told us that they had that GPS and knew where they were was kind of really interesting. You can no longer do reports from home or anything like that. So that's basically what that point says. And the other thing I mentioned before, work during hours that you know that is not going to be like a regular schedule because you would like to, but it is not so. And this is the market reporter main function, which is collect the data with the conditions and qualities and all of that stuff dictated by your handbook or what you're investigating, and not this is the main function of a market reporter. Investigate the price. That's basically what it is, with all the attributes, be it size, quality, condition, and the others. Maintain the schedules that you have set in your handbook or in your manual. I have seen a lot of reports from different countries, and when a reporter is absent, there is no report. This should fall sometimes in the market report to know more or less when he is going to be on vacation, if he has a doctor's appointment or something like that, to let the management know these dates with anticipation so they can have a replacement for him. And so the continuity of the reports are done. The continuity keeps on giving. Holidays and so on. Well, this is called feedback. If you take data from a market, make sure you share that data once it's aggregated to them. You just cannot just ask information without sharing. It's a two-way street. And in dissemination, no matter what we think with all the social stuff nowadays and social networks and the SMS and all of those things that sometimes you forget the names of them, radio seems to be still the best place to put information to reach those who probably need it the most. So a market reporter or the promoting unit or the marketing unit in that organization should strive to have these reports go at least, I'm not saying just radio, but at least to a wide group of radio stations, because radio stations still are what the farmers use mostly. And so somebody said that all the farmers and so now have cellular phones and all of that, but if you want 10 products, it will cost you $1 for, if I saw that, and farmers generally don't have $1 to send a text for each product that they want or something like that. But if the report is on the radio every day at the same time, and so they know where it is, and they will tune in and they will listen. Almost in all farms there are radio stations, radios. Oh, I didn't know that we had so many functions, but I still have some more here. You should listen to the users, and generally the users are the ones that should guide what you're going to do. When I used to cover flowers, for example, there was a flower, some red flower that rose. It was a red rose, and we were covering this rose for probably 10 years. And at the end, it was very hard for me to get prices and so. And I said, why am I getting that prices for the roses? They are coming in and so. And I decided to ask my users, and so I said, well, we don't like that rose that much anymore. Why don't you change it for Madame del Bar? So it's another red rose, it's another popular rose, so Once I started reporting Madame del Bars, everything was okay again. I had my 16 contacts, I got prices, it wasn't that difficult, and they were happy. So you have to listen to your users so you can change and comply with their requirements. At the end, we are doing a job for them, not for us. Not what we think, it's what they think. It's what is important for them, not for us. We just have the methodology and so to collect good data. But they are the users of the data, and they are the ones that we should be looking at. That's why at USDA, we no longer do many of those long reports. We have the portal, and everybody goes in there and do the report they want. I see people put a lot of energy into all these long reports, and so, but most of the people don't look at them as such. They want specific things, and if they can build it themselves, they will do it. The manual is a very, very important document, and if those market information systems if some of you guys do not have it, or if you're going to start, you better work on that first. It should be in your manual, every single thing that the market information system does. And if you are in doubt, consult the manual. We always say that we shouldn't carry it with us. Well, nowadays we don't carry the manuals, but we should know where it is so we can consult it. Most of our offices are at the markets now, so we can access it very easily. And that's the last point. One thing that I should mention is that if you do not understand something as a reporter and so, your superiors should know, or somebody of the technical staff, and the reporter should have the freedom to ask him and to be clarified. You could never, as a reporter, have any doubt in your mind of what you're doing. Be clarified. I'm almost finishing. And I mentioned this training stuff because, as I said, market reporting, data collection, to me is the main function, of a market information system. And one of the things that I have noticed most of the market information systems do is that they do have high turnover rate. They do lack of a lot of training. I have asked people, how long did you train? I just 1 day, 2 days, and then I was reporting, and so on. A lot of these guys do not last a year, and so continuity and the institutional knowledge and the loss of efforts that you give away when you don't train well and you don't keep these guys is huge. If you look at most of the market information systems, really most of the budget goes into the personnel. And if you are rotating the personnel that often, you are losing a lot by doing so. So I just wanted to share what is training for us and how long, on what are the steps that we do and what these guys do. I got about 24 years doing market. I'm still a reporter and doing that. Probably the average market reporter at Fruits and Vegetable Market News is probably 25 years working with market news. And that's where our success has been derived from. So orientation is 2 weeks. They learn about marketing practices in the industry, the structure of USDA, what benefits that you have, the history of market news. Everybody knows that the 17th of February 1915, the first report was submitted in Hammond, Louisiana, and it was about strawberries. Everybody knows that, so we give them the story, the history of market news through the years. We get them acquainted with the handbook, the functional dictionary, the resource folder, and any supplemental training that they might need in dealing with different people and so on. There are courses for that. Some of them are online, some of them are in their IDP, individual development plan, that can be started, that we start them on these first 2 weeks. Computer operation, yeah, I know nowadays a lot of the people that work, a lot of the guys that come for jobs and so are really literate as to computer operation, but government computers are not the same. They have a lot of perks, a lot of things. You don't have the same programs, they're not that new, and so on. The database are a little bit different. So we do 1 week of trainings to that, word processing, internet access, how to transmit data, how to retrieve data, how to reboot your system, how to upload data into the market information system, and so on. 2 weeks of administrative duties, we teach them, the clerical duties, weekly annual reports, knowledge of the reports, administrative forms that we use, equipment maintenance, and so all of this is taught in those 2 weeks. The fourth step is market reporting and terminal market, and we use 30 to 40 weeks there. And during these 30 to 40 weeks, the reporter will never go to a market by himself. He's always going to be accompanied by a senior reporter. Once he finishes this, he's assessed, he has a test, and if he passes the test, he might be able to report by himself. If not, he will have additional training. Or we'll send him home, depending on how well or how bad he does. Step 5 is shipping point, and this is the supplies at shipping point. How do we report all the production in the different areas going out of an area? We don't do supplies for the wholesale markets. We used to do that in the past, and that was another week. But this point is very important to us because it tells us what's coming out of each area of production. So he has 2 to 4 weeks to learn this part of market information. And step 6 is reporting, but at shipping point, which is almost the same as the terminal markets, but these are most of the interviews here are done by phone and are at the producing areas or at the points of entry, Miami being one, New York, Los Angeles, and so. So in total, we have 45 to 65 weeks. So you can see how important this is for us and how much time and efforts we give to it. It is because once you teach well a market reporter to collect the data, then everything else happens. If you collect bad data, I don't care if you have the best dissemination system, the cutest or analysis, whatever comes out is going to be crap, to say it clearly. Once you are sure that your data you collected is good, then everything else might be bad because the analysis might be bad or so, but for sure you're going to ensure that if all is done well, everything is going to be done well. If not, if the data is bad, then everything else is going to be bad, no matter anything else. So efforts in a market information system should be put into the reporter and into data collection, no matter what anybody says. I know for a fact that most of the market information systems, the salaries and the reporters are the lowest point, and they are not taken care of as they should. And this probably concludes this part. So I don't know, we still have about 15 minutes, and I don't know if that was Frank wanted me to. Frank, was that what you wanted when you put this subject up? Okay.
Bueno, continuaremos con la...
We'll continue with the participation of Dr. Palmer with his next presentation, which is the recollection of data, methodology, and key factors. We need his microphone on, if someone could mention that to him. Después de
This presentation is given to you mostly as a point of view for a manager. I do have others when I talk about data collection that is given to reporters. But those presentations are more detailed, more specific. These are general things that you as managers should keep in mind about data collection. I have said quite a bit of them already, and it's going to be very repetitious, and a lot of the guys earlier repeated some of these things. I will give you some examples of some situations that happen and so. However, I just wanted you to know that it's not from a market reporter's point of view that or if I were to give this to a market reporter, it will be a lot different. I will give you the techniques and, well, there are techniques that I will mention, but I will talk mostly how you handle the informer and what you do in the market, what things you need to be seen in the market and that type of stuff. These are general considerations that as managers you should be able to keep in mind. And also, as I said before, as to the earlier, a lot of this stuff you have heard already. So data collection is the name of the presentation. And the objective is to learn key techniques and strategies to help ensure that data collection, which is the most critical part of a successful successful and highly performing market information system, is done well. The scope is data collection is so key to the work of a market information system that to fail in data collection is to fail in the entire process of providing transparency to the agricultural markets. I cannot be more clear with this. And the purpose, collection of accurate and timely market information is the essential function of a market information system, or market information system. I did put essential in yellow so you guys could see it a little better. Oh, Fernando. Terry mentioned this. The reporter's motto should be, get the information, get it right, and get it out. Very essential. Get the information, get it right, get it out. Key components to consider: training. We talked about training. It's very, very important in data collection. If you don't train well a reporter, you're not going to get good information. Handbooks and manuals. All market information systems should have handbooks and manuals. This is the only way you can teach one and another the same thing. If you don't have anything written down and you don't give it to them to learn, they are not going to learn it. Functional dictionary. Maybe this term you don't understand or so, but a functional dictionary is like a list of all the commodities that you cover and all the different varieties and sizes and all sort of things, with every single product covered by, maybe if you have pictures in that, if you have production areas, origins, and all of that. Functional dictionary goes hand by hand with the handbook. The handbook is more like how you collect data, what are the terms you use, what time you do the investigation, and so. The functional dictionary talks mostly about the products you cover. List of contacts. We did mention that, and it's one of the, I mention it again, one of the best practices that you should have. Every market information system should have it, and they should keep it confidential. Should not share it with anybody. People like to call a lot and say, hey, I see you reported cucumbers. Can you tell me who's selling cucumbers, and can you share your list with me? No, that's for internal use. Keep it confidential. Logistics and equipment. That I've seen a lot of problems all over my travels from Serbia, Africa, South America, Central America, and elsewhere. Every time when you have problems in logistics, the reporter cannot get to the market, he doesn't have transportation, and so you have a really bad market information system. The same way with equipment, and so if you have bad equipment, they don't have good reports, and it seems like the reporter is not incentivized to do his work. So equipment and logistics are very, very important factors to consider during this process of trying to collect data as a market information system. Nowadays, digital camera and a lot of other devices, telephones, and so are really helpful to have in the office, have these little things that we put information in. All reporters should have one of those available, because a picture tells a better story than anything else. If you could have access to take a picture of something and then take it to the office. I saw this, send it to another different market MIS in a different country to compare things. I saw this coming from your country. I never seen it. What is it? But if you don't have a picture, how are you going to explain it? So that's very important. Ahora, listen to me. My Spanish is kicking in there. Gayatri mentioned a lot of this part earlier, and we're going to mention some of the importance of market information. And this is to give body to why data collection, accurate data collection, is very important. it is or plays a very important role in stabilizing markets. And when you don't have market information, you don't know what the prices are. You don't know where the supplies are. You don't know what's happening with certain products. Generally, there is an abundance of the product in the area of production, but in some other areas there might not be any product, or there might be very little at higher prices. Once you have information as to supplies, prices, and so the markets are stabilized. I just mentioned that it aids in the flow of commodities. In one area there is a lot, in another one there is not, so the commodities move to those areas of need. It provides all the people that work in the industry information on supplies, offerings, and prices. These are factual information that it provides them. This is mostly talking about the transparency. The reports that are developed from the data that we provide are used to develop long-range production and marketing plans by the industry, by government, by a lot of the stakeholders. Settlements of transportation claims. They are used in litigation between claimants. If I ask you to send me something and it didn't work, how do I know how much do I have to pay you for that? So it is used for that, even internationally a lot. And techniques for data collection, we do have what we call asking prices, which is kind of interesting. Because once you really study it, asking prices are not markets. I'm asking this, but if I don't, a market is created when you sell something. That's when the market is created. You know, I could ask $2 for something, and if I don't sell a single unit of that product, I have not created a market yet. So I'm asking this. It might be an indication of how the price might be, but asking prices are not a market. A market is created, investigated, and developed once the transaction is done. For example, I have heard some market information systems that do their research first thing in the morning. The market opens at midnight, and they're taking prices at midnight. That doesn't make sense because you have not created a market yet. There has not been a market. There have not been any transactions. There have not been a sale. And if there's nothing being sold of that product, there is no market. You have to understand that. So the market opens at midnight, and you go there at 5 o'clock, and you have all your informers trained, and you ask them, so what did you sell for? Oh, I sold 100 boxes of this at such and such price. I sold 50 at this at such and such price. I sold this at, so you have an idea. Or I sold most of my product between $5 and $7, but he sold. He said, I sold. If he's told you I'm asking, and you take that number as a market reporter, you are taking a bad piece of information, because markets are created once the transaction occurs. So, but asking price is a technique for data collection. Listening to transactions, this is a good one, but the bad part about listening to transactions is that you just listen to one transaction, one person. You don't have a chance to listen to, let's say I'm a produce seller, and I have 100 boxes, and you were coming by while I was selling 5 boxes, and I thought that these were my first sales, so I really wanted to make people buy stuff from me, and I sold them at $5. I just listened to that transaction. But later on, about an hour later, I noticed that a lot of people are coming to pick up my product, and I say, hey, this is going too quick. I better raise the price. I'm going to sell now at 8. I just listened to one transaction, $5, but I could have sold 90 or 100 or more at $8. So what is the price? What is the market there? If I listen just to 5 and the 8, where did it go? So once you train your informer to tell you more or less what you sold at, if you got there when he had done most of his selling, and he says, yeah, I sold from $5 to $8, but things were really crazy, and the $8, I sold most of my product at $8. So I have to report the market today from 5 to 8, but mostly 8, because more than 50% of my product went to 8. It's a different story. It's a different story. So listen to transactions. If some of your market guys do them, it gives you a good indication, but it's not the best way neither. Emails and fax sheets and so, they might work as long as you have the understanding that those were the prices that they sent you that were sold at that price, and you trust the information that's been sent to you, and you know this contact very well. But it's a good technique too. And this is what I prefer, be it by phone, be it by personally and so. You have all sorts of things playing. You have his body language. He might be a person who always tells you the price lower than what it is or higher than what it is. But you have trained him to give you a range, and so you are talking to him. You are changing information. He might say, I sold at $12, and you say, what? I talked to some other people today, and I'm hearing from $8 to $10. I never heard 12. Oh, I'm selling at 12 because my product is new, it's a better variety, is something. It gives you an explanation. Listening to a transaction, asking prices, no, it's not the best way. But the personal interview, once you have trained your informer, will give you the most value, no matter what anybody says. How many years I have on this? 24 years working on this, and nobody has proved me different. And also, the market information system, as USDA has 95 years or more in existence, and this is how we have done it, and it's served us well. Personal interview, we always have to think of the volume of transactions. I did mention that. That's why I'm just going to explain personal interview now. You have to interview everybody, the small, the big, the medium. I listen to some countries that they need to take 3 prices. And others, they have to take 13. That's price taking. A market reporter should be able to investigate, use the art of all of this to investigate, to learn what the market is. Once the market reporter has investigated and reached the price that he feels comfortable with all the questions that he asks, the people that he visits, then he will determine, based upon that investigation, the price. But it's not a mathematical model, because if you put a mathematical model, every day the origins change, the supplies change, the people who have the product change, so you cannot put this in a scientific way. You have to learn techniques. That's why I call it an art, to obtain the information. Interview everybody that you can. Sometimes it's difficult, but that's what we recommend. For example, secondary receivers, people who buy from people who receive something, they are good people to interview. You will know from them prices. You will ask them, what did you pay for this product? And that will help you in your investigation. This is something that not too many countries do neither, but I believe that you should get each product is a market. I heard that there's the canasta basic prices and this and that, but we'll think about this a little bit. I think you should get origin, grade, variety, size, container, quality, and any other indications that you could get on the product. If I grow, for example, raspberries, and that's not something that many of the other countries report. Maybe Canada reports it, the U.S. reports it, and not too many other countries report that. So let's take, for example, that this person grows raspberries, and there's several people selling raspberries, and why don't you report that price? The person that sells or plants or grows raspberries is very important for him and his people. So why should you limit your prices to those of the basic, I forgot how you say that in English, la canasta básica? You should not. I always feel that a market information system is to help all farmers, all producers, not just those that have big commodities and so on. So actually, in our market information system, the great value is when we report those products that are really rare. That's where these guys, when we have to go to the government and so, they really support us because we are the only source of information. And they have loans, and they plant, and they pay taxes, and you can go on and on and on. A market information should cover all what's in the market, not just those products that you deem important, which are the biggest thing. No. But I know it's very difficult, but we're talking about things that you should keep in mind. Okay, bring value to your contacts. That's another thing. We go to the market and we're not supposed to just go and ask. It is tough. Just when you just give and give and give, there will be a moment where you say, hey, this guy just come and takes 10, 15 minutes of my day, 20 minutes every day, and what do I gain from him? Well, I might gain the aggregated report, but there are things that you need to do to bring value to your contacts. If you're accurate, they will trust you a lot. And whatever you tell you that the price was, they will trust you. So that's one way of bringing value to your contacts. If you're outgoing, a nice guy, and ask them about their daughter or their soccer team or something like that, they will be willing to help you out. And if you see him in a different mood, say, what happened today? Or if you happen to hear his birthday and that day is his birthday, use that. You create a relationship. And that's really good once you're doing data collection. Make your first impression count. And that's one of the things we tell our new reporters. Learn a lot about your industry. Know what is affecting the market in the production zones, if it's weather related, if it's strikes, if it's something. You know, what happened in Chile with the volcano. If you knew a lot of that stuff, that's a good information to have. What's happening with all that ash in Argentina? See, that's good information to have in mind once you go and visit your reporter. If we are getting apples or pears from Chile or Argentina, we will be thinking, gee, how is this going to affect supplies and so. I have a lot of guys that buy apples from Chile. I might tell them that supplies might be cut in a couple of weeks, that the boat lasts to come up because they cannot harvest anything. Or quality will be really bad because all of these apples are covered with ash. So these are the things that you, as a reporter, are important for data collection. Show you care. If he asks you a question, respond to him really quickly. If you're not going to, if you get to his business and he's selling to one of his main buyers, you're not going to bug in and ask him for prices. Wait, go to another guy and come back later. You don't want to bug him. Actually, it's kind of rude to do that because his business is to sell. and they help you to help them, but they kind of help you and they don't have to help you. So you have to be respectful of his business. It's not because you have a government T-shirt or something like that, or have a government job that you will be going to his business and impose yourself. No, you cannot do that. Build trust. We talked a lot about that. And the biggest way of building trust is keep the confidentiality and all the information they give you confidential. If you're going to divulge something, divulge it aggregated. If he asks you, what's the price of apples were? Well, I heard, to give him the range that you heard. You're not going to say, Lopez produce is selling at 9, Pedro produce is selling at 10. You don't do that. Oh, I was ahead of myself. Clairvoyant. Take value to your contact. Give them reports. Show them what's happening in the areas of production. For example, if lettuce went up in the area of production, why not tell him, hey, lettuce went up in California? You know, he might see if he has a lot of supplies, he might want to hold back and sell them at a higher price. Or if the price went down and he has a lot, you might want to tell him. So he lower his price a little bit more and try to get out of these supplies. So it's a two-way situation. Oh, I kind of like that general considerations, I guess. In an office, really, the one that's responsible for the report is the supervisor. And with this, he should be totally trustworthy that the job that the reporter is doing is correct. There are offices that have more than one reporter and so on. There are offices that just have one, and he will be the same supervisor, so he will be responsible for that. But this is mainly for multiple offices. If you have a doubt and you cannot verify it, it's better not to include it, basically. Bad data, no good. I talked a little bit about that earlier. You know, you have to have sufficient sales to report a market. You cannot report asking prices. You cannot just listen to one transaction and think that's the price. You have to have sufficient data and be comfortable with your investigation to report that price and that representative price. It's kind of weird, but and this is kind of like an anecdote, is you are investigating and you don't feel, if you have not gotten to what the market is on that product, you really do not feel comfortable. And the more uncomfortable you feel, you need to keep investigating. You contact buyers, you look at the source of the products, you look at the product, you go into the coolers and see. You do a lot of other things because as a market reporter, if you are doing this very well, once you learn, once you are investigating, you know to a degree of certainty what the market is. It's kind of it's an abstract thing. That's why I keep saying it's an art. This is another thing for confidentiality. There are products that you might have only very few people who are selling them. If they are less than 3, you cannot report it because you're going to have issues with confidentiality. With 3 persons, you cannot know what the price is, or who gave you one price or the other. So another way to do this, if you get a buyer's price, then that will help you out. But at least have 3 people. We do this a lot. I see some other people don't do it. I heard that some countries like Canada was going to start doing it. And so, but we do have price ranges, and we try to get the mostly in there, because sometimes the price range could be wide. And it's good quality stuff. One thing might be 1 day old or 2 days old or something. But there are sometimes very wide ranges that you investigate. But the mostly should be at least 51% of all the sales that occurred in that market. Now, it could be 90%. There's nothing wrong with that. But make sure those ranges are not too wide, because it won't help anybody. I see reports like I used to see them from Japan. The price of an orange is the box is from $190 to $2,000. Yen, actually, or something like that. I said, that doesn't help me any. It doesn't make sense. You know, we do see some wide ranges in some markets reported nowadays, but we really, really, really have to keep that range very close by. And that's part of the investigation. Whenever I see a wide range in prices, I think of a lazy reporter. That's my opinion. And be simple. You know, some of the reports I have seen that they are all complicated with this, with that, and the other. No, you just have to be very simple. How to verify information, checking with buyers, chain store buyers, food service buyers, brokers, and all of those guys have a wealth of information to help us with. We generally talk to them often, actually. I did mention about secondary receivers. They will tell us what they are paying, so that's another way of checking, validating data. Inspectors in the market, I don't know if some of your markets have inspectors, but we do have a lot of them, and they tell us a lot. Sometimes we see for grapes and other products, and you see, hey, there is this guy giving me a bad price for grape, very low. And he says, something must be wrong with this. So you go and you talk to the inspector. He says, yes, I inspected a lot, and it had about 10% decay and so on. So that's why the price is lower from that guy. So they're very helpful. There's a lot of other people in the market that could help you out too. The market manager and some others. We talked about this already. Good judge of human nature. I mentioned this in other words. Yeah, I mentioned about the dictatorial and macho, or important attitude. It should be humble. This is very interesting because, you know, you may encounter an informer that gives you always low prices, but they are always consistent. And if they give you always low prices and one day they give you a higher price for some reason, something is happening. Or the other way, they give you high prices, and everybody can inform, and you have to know how to trust these guys. You have to understand who they are. And not everybody is going to give you the right thing. They have angles, they have advantages that they want to take. And as a market reporter, you need to learn all these quirks about your informants. And you do not have to believe all what you said. But once you understand them and know where they're coming from, then you can use their information. Beware of these situations. Let's see. Yeah. When somebody is handling product on consignment, which means that he's handling and he's just getting a percentage of the sales or something like that, he will always want to report to you low prices. Why? Because if he reports to you low prices, he will use the report and say, hey, I'm paying you this and this because market news said this was the price. So they prefer always to give you low prices. You have to be aware of that. If he is dealing with a lot of consignments, or if somebody says to you, oh, that guy got a load on consignment, you surely going to know that he's going to give you a low price because it's to his advantage. Yeah, the guy that owns the product, and if he has a claim or something like that, he will want to give you a high price so that the market report reflects a high price, and so he can be just saying, but market news says it's $12, and I'm charging you $11.50. You see, you have to be aware of that. So that's why you have to build this relationship, this trust, and so because no matter, even though we have 98 years of a culture of sharing information, these guys are not dumb. They will always take an advantage whenever they can. Yeah, I did mention that already. I mentioned that. I mentioned about the claim and all that. So if I buy a product and it's damaged or something like that, I will want the higher price. So when I go and sell it, hey, I would have sold this at such and such price. So, okay, I think I'm getting there. Yeah, you have to be impartial. We heard that word. We cannot be influenced by anything. Just report the market as it is, with the conditions that they are. I went ahead of myself, repeating myself at the same time. Yeah. In our system and in most of the information systems, there is just one exception. All the information is voluntary. They don't have to give it to us. So that's why this relationship is built by trust and all of that, and that's why you really have to create this kind of animosity going. If you don't do that, someday they might say, no, I don't want to give you any more information. And what can you do? So that's why I say it's an art. That's why I keep saying that all these things need to be kind of taught, mentioned, checked if the person has the right personality. If he's a really down guy and not upbeat, not extrovert, it's going to be very, very hard for him to get some good information. Voluntary information is the ideal thing. Generally, when they tell you that you have to give something, you do it and in a bad way. Creating this idea of voluntary information and sharing and asking and having all this relationship with the industry and so is the best way. So you should have cordial and good relationships with your informers or with the trade. Again, confidential information must be maintained confidential. I mentioned that a well-informed reporter, who knows, who understands the industry, he will be well regarded by the informers. If you come confusing a watermelon with a cantaloupe, they will laugh you out of town. And the reporter who leaks information, in our case, you can lose your job and have to pay a fee of $10,000 in our case if you leak any information. So confidentiality is very important. You have to study your contacts. Some people like this, some like you to come a certain hour, some like you not to go right away and talk about prices. They want to talk about the baseball game last night or the news or if Madonna is wearing panties or not, or stuff like that. They like to talk about that. That is to wake you up because you guys were. Personal acquaintances. You don't have to buddy up with them, but to have a working relationship. And I think this is almost my last slide. And I want to read this verbatim because the essential word is there, and I want this to be clearly understood. Since data collection is the most essential function of a MIS, and since market reporters have the bulk of this responsibility, then managers should always strive to create the best conditions for reporters to do their job well. Victor Hugo, I champion you for that today. Some others have mentioned this, and Dr. Martinez, and so that's the idea. The reporter is the most important part of the organization, and you really should help him to do his job much better. 20 salaries difference between a reporter and a market and the manager is not understood. My boss has probably about 15% more salary than I do, and I feel good, and he feels good, so we do work all right. And he, for example, and I give this example to everybody, he has the worst computer in the market information system. He doesn't need it. He understands it, and so on. He knows that we, the reporters and the other people who do the other jobs, the data collection and so, are the ones that need the best equipment and so on. He provides that to us. You see, I'm here and he's there. That's a good boss. He wants me to see my mom, so. And I wanted to mention this, I didn't mention them earlier, but these are things that a manager should keep in mind that really hinder data collection. Rotation of personnel, everybody mentioned that already. Poor training or lack of training. Lack of funds, we mentioned that a lot today. Low salaries, we just mentioned that. And schedules. The schedules are kind of tough because it is what it is, you know. Markets are reported in the morning, but some people are really well. Once you're going to interview somebody to be a market reporter, take them to the market. Don't have them come to your office at 9 o'clock and interview them then, and then when they start, you have to work in the market. Take them to the market. Have them know the schedule. You don't need to keep that away from them. If they don't like it, they won't take the job. Believe me, and you save you a lot of training, a lot of problem, a lot of headaches. And with that, I think I say gracias, thanks, and everything else. I hope you like it.
Bueno, muchas gracias, doctor Palma.
Thank you very much, Dr. Palmer, for sharing with us your ample experience as a market reporter and for being so efficient in your time. You saved us 15 minutes before break, and your presentation was very interesting, but you now have to stay for 15 minutes for a question and answer period before we take a break. We have 15 minutes for questions to Dr. Palmer's. So those of you who have questions, please raise your signs, and we will begin with we have 4 people. First, Blanca Guarneros. Fernando, congratulations on your presentation. I am particularly fascinated by this topic. I think it's a very important topic in the case of Mexico and other countries. It is a topic that we sometimes neglect, and we want to promote this. It's a very difficult topic, but a critical one. In Mexico, market reporters are at the lowest scale, salary scale, are the one who receive the lowest salaries, are who are the least recognized for the achievements of the information system. I have a question regarding your first presentation. You mentioned the basket of staple products. What criteria do you use to select this basket? Do you use the same criteria for each quote point, or as the users told you about the flowers, we don't want this red rose anymore, we want a different one. Can you use this type of criteria to select your basic commodities basket? Maybe in the northern region in the United States, they want the red flower, and in the southern region, they don't want it anymore. So, do you use standard criteria?
It's very interesting. We are always thinking that whatever is in the market is somebody who grew it, and somebody is selling it, and somebody needs an idea of what that product is selling for. So we don't have a basic basket of products. If we have more than 3 persons selling that product, we will report it. We might not, if we have 2, but we might ask that information and keep it in the back of our minds and share it unofficially with some of these growers that need the price and so. But you are always thinking of who grew this product and how is he going to help, how you're going to help him. He needs an idea of how to sell his product. He needs to do calculations to see if this season is sold, he planted this small product and if he made money, or how is he going to make money. You know, he needs to have an idea of what this product is going to be sold at or is selling at. So we don't have anything set. As to the example of the rose, there are products that just no longer are used by the industry. Mangoes, I remember mangoes, Costa Rica made a big mistake. They grew a lot of yellow mangoes, and people used to like yellow mangoes, and we reported yellow mangoes and so, but nowadays the red mangoes are the ones that are popular. If you look at pineapple, in the past, a lot of the quotations used to be with cayenne, green pineapples. Now it's just golden. And you see, the market changed, the varieties are new, the consumers like something different, and they do away with that. So the product is there. If the product is there and we have enough quotes, we will report it. There is no, and it's not just the product, it's the size, it's the container, it's the origin, it's the quality. Even if it's fair condition or bad quality, we report that because somebody needs that price. And if you have enough product being sold at number 2, number 3, or something like that, it's a market. It's being sold. Somebody sold it at something. Somebody shared the information. You report it. So, as I said, a market is created when something is sold. And if something is sold, somebody planted it. And if somebody planted it, somebody needs information. That's the idea, more or less, as to that. That's the answer. Yeah.
Ahora tenemos al señor
Mr. Victor Buccelli. Thank you, Dr. Palmer, for your presentation. I fully agree with Blanca and with you, Dr. Palmer, in that the main component of an information system is our reporters. I would rather call them investigators rather than reporters. We based our work on their day-to-day work in their area of expertise. And another critical element, once a system has been implemented, is ongoing training. To take our supervisors to the markets, to the field, and put oxygen into the system to keep it alive. I would like you to elaborate with regards to some definitions that you gave at the beginning. It is really difficult for a reporter or an investigator to identify the price firsthand. Are there any recipes to begin, some good tips that you could give reporters so that they can get the usual price? And about the work schedule for reporters, based on your experience, should there be some flexibility administration-wise with for reporters in the wholesale markets, because they have to work in the wee hours in the morning, 2, 3 a.m., since administrators in the different countries think that they shouldn't be able to go home at noon. So you need to fight against that type of thinking. How did you deal with this in the United States? Thank you.
No, I forgot the first question. But we'll get to that. We'll answer the second one first. As to the schedules, we do work 8 hours. And if we get into the market at 5 a.m., we work 8 hours. Sometimes we work more. Mondays, prices are like crazy. They change a lot. We work 10, 12 hours on Monday, but Tuesday they're lower down, and so you don't have to do such a detailed investigation. So they work 6 hours, and then Wednesday maybe 6 hours also. So they do work the correct amount of time. So they're not giving us or any advantages. You do work at another hour, but the correct 40 hours a week. At midnight, most of markets open at midnight, but I don't think that from midnight to 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, you will get 20% of the transactions. And if you want to take prices at 1 o'clock in the morning and get prices with 10% of the transactions, you are really not covering the market. You know, I've seen with my experience that most of the transactions occur probably from 3 to 5, 3 to 6 o'clock. And if you have most of the transactions done by 5 o'clock and you get there at 5 o'clock and you have your market report, your informer trained, he already is doing some investigation for you. He's going to tell you the range of prices, and he's going to give you some information that if you get there at midnight, you will not know. He might tell you, for example, there is very little lettuce in the market and it's moving quickly. It's moving fast. Prices are going up really quick. But if you go at 1 o'clock in the morning and he hasn't sold that many, he does not know this information. You train him to do part of your investigation. He might have by 6 o'clock in the morning, 5:30, 40, 50 transactions. and that gives more value to the information he gives you. And it gives you a little more confidence in that data that you have taken. Some countries do two rounds. I think there's nothing wrong with doing 2 rounds because they do the second. And the second is probably the most valuable one, in my case. And now, the monthly price, it is difficult.
¿Es difícil?
I don't know, it's kind of weird. You are 30 weeks or following somebody, and if you like the job, you must like it to be 30 days following somebody and just seeing what he's doing and trying to learn and so on. So you learn a few things. You know who the big houses are in the markets. You know who in all the commodities, who are the most important people. You know who is moving such and such and such. So you have key indicators. And this will serve you well if the market change, or if something is afoot different than the day before. So some days, I hate to say it, but some days you get a visitor and you cannot get rid of him and so, or her, and then you have to cut corners and so on. So you report these few people that you have that are key. However, you cannot do this too often, because first they do unsupervised, unannounced visits to the market. We do that. And if I haven't visited everybody, and if they say, hey, Fernando has not come here for 2-3 weeks, I'm out of a job. So, yeah, I might miss them one day, but I'm not going to miss them 2 days. So I'll visit all of them. Some of them you just don't even care about their prices in that minute, because you already have your price form, and so you know what it is. But you just go because you might need him or need her some other time. You cannot just have your selective. Yeah, there are some big, huge markets like Mexico City, and it's very difficult. I think they have too few reporters. But then, when you really think about it, it's probably one of the world's largest markets and they just don't cover that many products. They cover 100, probably, not even 100, maybe less. And that's very easy. We have in some of our reports from 700 to 1,400 prices covered in one day. 3 reporters is the maximum. But you do the investigations 3, 4 hours, 5 hours sometimes. And it's tough. There's not such a thing. You will have to go to the market, see it. As I say, it's an art. Every market is different. I remember in Ecuador, you could not use anything from the government or anything like that. You cannot even identify yourself as such. But with time and so, you go talking to them, you explain to them what you're using this for, what's the importance, what's the advantages of having this, give them some value. And so when they make money from something you tell them, they will be grateful forever. So I don't know if that answers both of your questions, but each market has its own personality, and it's very difficult to pinpoint a few things. But mainly, if you follow the little things that I said there, and so you will be okay. You are starting well, even though some of these places are very tough. I heard Iran once told me that Guatemala is tough. Mauricio says Nicaragua is tough too. So I have not visited both of them. So I like to do that. El Salvador, they used to tell me was tough, but once I got there, I think it wasn't that tough. So.
Bueno, debido al tiempo, ya llegamos a las 4 de la tarde, tiempo del receso, no podemos seguir con el proceso de preguntas, así que le solicitamos a las personas que tienen su letrero, ¿verdad? Que por favor anoten ya sus interrogantes y las vamos a evacuar durante el periodo de sesión de preguntas y respuestas el día de mañana a las 9:15 de la mañana. Y ahorita los invitamos para proceder a acompañarnos al receso.